incredible cult following, and they don't understand it.
Yeah.
You know, so
It would.
I wish they do. I wish they did, really.
Well, I don't know. We were talking off
One
camera.
day, the one day they will catch on, really.
I don't know. It's always been my opinion since I've gotten into progressive music that in 200 years' time, you know, only the best music will really be
I
recognized.
tell you, in the year 2001, right, when you want to remember the music of the 70s, I'm sure that the Genesis album will come through.
I don't know. Beethoven wasn't recognized till several hundred years after his death, so, you know, maybe they'll be immortalized. We were talking off camera before about more about critics and how they seem to have abandoned progressive music for, quote, new wave. New wave, of course, is a trend, just the way most critics thought that progressive rock was a trend.
It's a label again.
Right, that had reached its peak, I don't know, in 1975 or something. I guess they just made that up. Does it seem surprising to you, or do you feel that it's really a surprise to the critics that a band like Pink Floyd can enjoy #1 status for their album The Wall for God knows 15, 16 weeks now, when in fact still most reviewers knock down the album as being all those ridiculous phrases that
That's proved the point that we were talking about before, you know. And again, you know, I think that people were looking so much for something new happening in the 70s. Straight as 1970 came up, people were looking for that something new, you know, and they waited for 5 years until the punk rock movement came out of London, you know, which is understandable. That there was the young people were very arrested, you know, and they were coming out of school. They didn't have any jobs. They were getting angry, you know, and in England it's very easy to come up with the fashions and the music connected together. I saw this happening in the 60s with the Beatles and King's Road and Carnaby Street, you know, and
beads and long hair and all.
Exactly, you know, and that kind of happened again in a different form in 75, 76 in England, you know, with the Sex Pistols starting it off, being arrogant and being different, you know. And it was like a wheel going back again, you know. If you remember when the Stones came out and the Beatles came out, they were arrogant but in the 70s, I suppose the same equivalent of arrogance was heavier in the 70s than in the 60s. And so again, journalists trying to come up with a novelty, with a new story and so on, you know, they really caught on the punk and new wave. And some people, some journalists that started in the 60s and they were getting 30, 32, 33 years of age, right? They didn't want to feel that were being caught off guard, you know, that to admit maybe they were getting old if they didn't like punk rock or new wave, you know, so they caught on, they tried to catch on, they went in the clubs, they tried pogoing as well, you know, maybe they had a bad spine or they had to go to a chiropractor the day after, you know, but that's right, you know, that this was the new thing, and so the progressive rock was dead when it wasn't dead at all, you know, because people like, there was only one big band really, ELP, that split up.
Right.
But Yes went on and getting a platinum album, you know, Supertramp went to #1. Genesis went bigger than ever, you know, and they got the first gold album in America in 1978. They took a year off. Now the new album is out, and it's the top added radio airplay album. So, you know,
I don't know.
It's an evolution of music that at the beginning, again, was labeled as progressive rock at the beginning of the 70s. I hate labels, you know. I think even rock and roll, what's rock and roll, you know? Rock and roll maybe is a 12-bar blues, you know, very simple music that anybody can pick up an instrument and learn these few chords and play music, which is fantastic. But then if you want to evolve and create good chord changes, good arrangements, you know, you have to progress yourself. You have to progress your creative mind, you know, and then you become a progressive rocker. It's silly, you know. It's just you become a better musician.
Right. When you first encountered the band, what was their attitude about success? Did that play a big role in them continually going on? Nursery Crime was released in '71, which was considered the first, quote, band album with the original 5, or I guess the 5
now
members,
the legendary
the
5.
most known.
Yeah,
right, exactly. But that didn't really do as well as they had expected. I was reading in the book that Tony Banks, the keyboard player, was remarking that deep down he didn't feel that that record was better than Trespass.
He said we thought that we went off the ball.
Yeah.
You know? But they were encouraged from that good repercussions in Europe. In fact, the album went in the charts in Italy, went #4, and they went on tour in Italy, and they found incredible mass acceptance, and they were encouraged really a lot to follow that avenue, you know. And in fact, Watches of the Sky was written in Italy, and they were getting together Supper's Ready and all the numbers that came up in Foxtrot. In fact, they did a tour of Italy as well later on, 6 months later, while they were recording Foxtrot. And that helped them really a lot. You know, their attitude to success was that they were hoping to make it quite soon, you know, at least sooner than when they made it, you know. But they were very, very strict in proposing the music that they were creating, you know, and they never accepted any compromise in going out for a single, or if a song was coming up 3-4 minutes long and the record company decided to release it as a single, okay, but they never went out and to write a single. Not even Follow You, Follow Me, that came this big hit single, you know.
Amazing.
Just came out of an incredible jam session that I heard, you know, was 10 minutes jam session, you know, and suddenly it turned out to be this nice, happy number. I said, hey, let's keep it this short, which is great, you know, which you correct self-indulgence there, you know.
Going back to what you said about Italy, we had Bernardo Lanzetti on the show. I keep on saying we. For those of you that wonder where Aaron Weiner is, who used to be my partner, he still is in a way, but he's drumming in the Mojave Desert as we speak, so that's where he is. We had Bernardo on the show, and Bernardo, for those of you that don't know, is former lead singer of PFM. Genesis had such a phenomenal effect upon the musicians and the young people in Italy. An entire amazing progressive music cult started to happen there. I got into PFM in 1973, and I was amazed by how beautiful the music was and how Genesis oriented it was, and I would go through all the import racks.
Can I correct you there? It wasn't Genesis oriented. It was something very strange that happened in Italy, that PFM started in 1970. By listening to King Crimson, Procolarum, and all these people, like Genesis did. So they came out of the same grooves in a way, you know. In fact, if you hear the second side of the first PFM album, is very much King Crimson influenced, and so they were coming out of the same type of school, and they were going into parallel lines. In fact, Peter Gabriel liked so much PFM that when he started a solo career, you know, he called me up to see if PFM was available to be his backing band.
You're kidding.
And it was strange because at the same time, the same month, Bernardo Lanzetti joined the band, and they were in the studio recording Chocolate Kings. You know, and so the thing fell through.
Why do you think that music had such an effect upon the people of Italy?
In Italy, again, because rock and roll never sold in Italy.
Straight rock and roll, like
12-bar stuff. I remember Grand Funk Railroad came in Italy. It was June '71 at the Palasport in Rome. 15,000 people, 15,000 seater hall, and that 4,000 people, which was really a bit of a flop, you know. There was a time when they were trying to get the big American and English bands to come through, you know, and they just weren't accepted at well, you know. The Italian background is the song canzone, right? A straight song composition, and then the operas. You know, in the 18th century, there was the popular music was the opera, and so that was a lot to do with classical and popular music put together. And so when the progressive rock started in England, the Italian music fans really identified a lot because the music was very well constructed.
It was classical-like.
It was classy, you know. It was good taste. There was dynamic in their music. If you listen to Genesis' first albums, the dynamics there are so strong, you know, and you have this incredible crescendo and then this moment of quiet stagnation.